You've done the hard work. You've prepared yourself. You thought through what you'll say. And now you're getting ready to tell your spouse you want a divorce. But before you have that conversation, there's another important step you need to consider. You need to understand what might happen after you say it, because your spouse's reaction can completely shape what comes next. I'm Regina DeAngelis, a former divorce attorney and the founder of Family Transitions Divorce Coaching and Mediation. We've helped almost 1,000 couples through the divorce process with clarity and compassion. And in this video, we're going to walk through the 3 most common responses spouses have when you ask for a divorce. I'll share how to recognize each response, how to stay calm, and how to be compassionate so that you are protecting your own emotional well-being in the process. And I'll also share a few statistics about divorce so that may help you feel less alone. Let's start with a little perspective. In the United States, about 69% of divorces are initiated by women. The average first marriage ends in divorce about 41% of the time and after about 8 years. 41% of first marriages are expected to end in divorce, but that number is actually higher for second and third marriages. These numbers don't define your story, but hopefully they do just remind us all that this is not an uncommon situation and that there is no failure or judgment or shame involved in needing to move through a divorce. Most people don't file for divorce impulsively. They've usually been waiting, sometimes for years, hoping things would change. So if you've been holding on for a long time before speaking up, you're not alone. This is absolutely a conversation of last resort. So here's what you can expect if you've asked your spouse for a divorce. Response number 1 is denial. The first response is usually denial, and you may hear things like, "You don't mean that," or "We can fix this. Let's get to counseling now," or "You're just upset. This will pass." And you might feel like you've heard those things many times in the past. But what's happening here is shock. Your spouse is scared and clinging to the idea that nothing is changing. This isn't about ignoring you on purpose. It's really a natural defense mechanism. If this is happening, the best thing you can do is stay calm. You might respond with, "I know this feels overwhelming. I've thought about this for a long time. This isn't a reaction, it's something I've been processing." Acknowledging their fear helps them feel heard, but stay steady in your truth. The key is to be kind but consistent in your message that it is time to move forward. Response number 2, be prepared for anger. The second common response is that they lash out in anger, and you may hear things like, "This is your fault, you're destroying our family," or "How could you do this to me?" This is a common reaction, and we don't want you to fall into the blame game, right? Anger almost always comes from pain. It's just their way of protecting themselves or feeling a little bit of control when they are sensing that things are very much out of control. They're blaming you because it feels easier than facing their own hurt. If this is happening, you don't want to meet anger with anger. That just causes things to spiral out of control. So you want to pause, you want to breathe, you want to use I statements instead of you statements. For example, you might say, "I know that this is painful. I'm sorry that you're hurting, but this is something I need to say." That way, you're showing empathy for how they're receiving this information without sliding into the blame shifting that is everyone's natural reaction. And you don't want to continue the conversation if you feel like it's spiraling. Give your spouse time to process. recognizing that they are in a very different emotional space than you are. And it will take them time naturally to process and catch up. So, response number 3 is withdrawal. The third response is withdrawal, and it might sometimes feel like completely, like you're talking to a brick wall. Your spouse may shut down. They might give one word answers. They might just completely walk away. They might sit in silence, saying nothing at all. Or they may carry on the next day as if you said nothing at all, which might make you feel like you're in the twilight zone. Because on the surface, it can look like they don't care or didn't hear you. But usually, what that means is that they are completely overwhelmed and that they might also be hoping that their silence is going to cause you to slide back into the old status quo and just carry on as before. And that might be a cycle that, they've lived through in the past in your relationship. But remember though, if you want that old status quo to continue, you say nothing. But if you want change, you need to be kind and consistent in your message that it is time to move forward. It's good to give your spouse space though. You don't want to let them deflect completely. So you don't want to slide into that status quo, but give them time to process. So you could say, I know this is a lot. I'd like to talk again when you feel ready. Can we agree on a time to revisit? And that way you're respecting their need for quiet and their need to kind of digest, but you're keeping the door open for communication and you're not pretending that you're going to carry on like nothing was said. But none of these reactions, denial, anger, or withdrawal, mean you can't move forward. They simply are an indicator for you of where your spouse is emotionally in the moment, and your role is to hold steady. You need to listen with kindness and compassion for whatever emotional upheaval they are experiencing. Allowing them space to feel it and to process clears a path for collaboration moving forward. And divorce is not a single conversation, it's a transition. And the compassion you show in these early moments really sets the tone for a calmer, more respectful path forward. How do you keep yourself steady through all of this? Here are a few quick tips. First, you need to mentally prepare for each of these possible reactions. The more you are able to imagine ahead of time and anticipate what your spouse might do, the less reactive you are going to be in the moment and the calmer the situation will stay. So, like I've said, you need to give them space to process and grieve. Don't continue to engage if the conversation is sliding into accusations and blame. You want to avoid revisiting the past and really keep everything focused on the future. Don't promise things you can't deliver just to soften the blow. If you know that marriage counseling is fruitless at this point, but they're begging, you can always agree to go to work on communication, to set a foundation for co-parenting afterwards, but don't promise reconciliation. And have support ready for yourself, whether that's a therapist, a close friend, or a coach. This is a really big deal and a difficult step, but you don't have to walk it alone. So remember, whether your spouse responds with denial, anger, or withdrawal, know that each response is coming from a place of grief and fear. If you can anticipate these reactions and respond with clarity, kindness, and compassion, you'll set the stage for a healthier process moving forward. At Family Transitions, Divorce Coaching and Mediation, we support families from the very first conversation all the way through to final paperwork. Our step-by-step process is not generic divorce mediation. It is a process deliberately designed to reduce conflict, save money, and protect your children from unnecessary stress. If you'd like support navigating this moment in your life, we're here to walk with you every step of the way. And if you'd like more tips on creating a smooth family transition, hop into my free training in the description below and watch the next video.